Good morning. Welcome to day 13 of reading through the Bible in 102 days. This is a really exciting journey so far, and I'm glad that you're here to share in the journey. So, what we're going to be reading this morning is actually Numbers chapters 9 to 21. So, I hope that you're ready to get into God's Word. Before we do, I'm just going to show you a few documents. If you're new here, welcome. This is exciting. This is an exciting challenge to be doing. And there's just so much growth that I've seen in myself already. And for those of you who have followed along so far, I hope you've seen growth in your own understanding of the Bible, but also spiritual growth itself. So let's just go through a couple things here. This is where we're at in the reading plan. If you're interested at all these documents are in the description of the live stream. And so this is where we are today. So day 13 right here. There is no day 12 live stream. If you're wondering about that, why there's none there, it's because on Sundays I take the day off. Then this here is the schedule when I am reading live. So from 7 a.m. to about 8:30 a.m. And then Saturdays are at 10 a.m. so that I can read with a friend. So that was the last reading that I did was with Liv, my wife, and with Michael and Vicky. And that was such a fun time reading. And so this here is the collaborative notes document. This is a neat document here for you to add your own notes. So if at any point during the reading, whether you're watching this live or after the fact, if there's anything that you notice in the text that you want to take note of, then just add it in the collaborative notes document, and then we'll all get to see it together. So these are all notes that different people have written, and it'd be really neat to see your observations today. Then this is the document with my notes here, and so if you're ever curious about what notes I'm taking, then they are right there. Excuse me. So just a quick summary of what we saw on Saturday. It was like by nature a bit more of a dry text, a drier reading, and it will be today too. But I hope and I pray that we'll see so much beauty in the text today, because last Saturday rather, it was still like such a beautiful text to read through. It was so filled with richness as God gave guidance and order and beauty for functioning and safety. It was really a neat read. So what we're seeing this morning is, excuse me, again, Numbers starting at chapter 9 to Numbers 21. And so I have here a form if you're going through the Bible as well and you want to do this. This is a document I made. I'll put it up on this camera here. So with all the different chapters of the Bible to color in as we go or as you read on your own, I find this really exciting as a visual learner. This helps me kind of see quickly at a glance how far we are along. And so anyways, if you want that, again, the link for that is in the description. So before we start reading and before I pray, I'm just going to read a quick disclaimer. It says, the scriptures quoted are from the NET Bible, https://netbible.com, copyright 1996-2019, used with permission from Biblical Studies Press, LLC, all rights reserved. All right. Let's pray and let's dig in. Lord Almighty, we thank you for this morning, this time that we have to praise you, to worship you, to glorify you in our pursuit of you, to glorify you in our opening of your word, and looking for you, for your character, your attributes. Lord, I pray that we would see more of you today. Lord, that we would be learning and growing. God, that the words that we read today, even if the text might seem a little bit dry at a surface level, Lord, I pray that it would penetrate deep into our hearts and that it would really help to form us into your likeness. Please bless the reading of your word this morning beyond what we even imagine and even hope for. Lord, you are so good to us. I pray in your name, Jesus. Amen. So let's start reading. Here we go. Chapter 9. The Lord spoke to Moses in the desert of Sinai in the first month of the second year after they had come out of the land of Egypt. The Israelites are to observe the Passover at its appointed time. In the 14th day of this month, at twilight, you are to observe it at its appointed time. You must keep it in accordance with all its statutes and all its customs. So Moses instructed the Israelites to observe the Passover. And they observed the Passover on the 14th day of the first month, at twilight in the desert of Sinai, in accordance with all that the Lord had commanded Moses. So the Israelites did. Sorry. I'm just going to grab a sip of water. All right. It happened that some of the men who were ceremonially defiled by the dead body of a man could not keep the Passover on that day. So they came before Moses and before Aaron on that day, and those men said to Moses, "We are ceremonially defiled by the dead body of a man. Why are we kept back from offering the Lord's offering at its appointed time among the Israelites?" So Moses said to them, "Remain here, and I will hear what the Lord will command concerning you." The Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, if any of you or your posterity becomes ceremonially defiled by touching a dead body, or are on a journey far away, then he may observe the Passover to the Lord. Then he may observe it on the 14th day of the second month, at twilight. They are to eat it with bread made without yeast and with bitter herbs. They must not leave any of it until morning, nor break any of its bones. They must observe it in accordance with every statute of the Passover." All right. "But the man who is ceremonially clean and was not on a journey and fails to keep the Passover, that man must be cut off from his people, because he did not bring the Lord's offering at its appointed time. That man must bear his sin. If a resident foreigner lives among you and wants to keep the Passover to the Lord, he must do so in according with the statute of the Passover and according to its custom. You must have the same statute for the resident foreigner and for the one who was born in the land." On the day that the tabernacle was set up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, the tent of the testimony, and from evening until morning there was a fiery appearance over the tabernacle. This is the way it used to be continually. The cloud would cover it by day, and there was a fierce appearance by night. Whenever the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, then after that the Israelites would begin their journey, and in whatever place the cloud settled, there the Israelites would make camp. At the commandment of the Lord, the Israelites would begin their journey, and at the commandment of the Lord, they would make camp. As long as the cloud remained settled over the tabernacle, they would camp. When the cloud remained over the tabernacle many days, then the Israelites obeyed the instructions of the Lord and did not journey. When the cloud remained over the tabernacle a number of days, they remained camped according to the Lord's commandment, and according to the Lord's commandment they would journey. And when the cloud remained only from evening until morning, when the cloud was taken up the following morning, then they traveled on. Whether by day or by night, when the cloud was taken up, they traveled, whether it was for 2 days or a month or a year that the cloud prolonged its stay over the tabernacle, the Israelites remained camped without traveling, but when it was taken up, they traveled on. At the commandment of the Lord, they camped, and at the commandment of the Lord, they traveled on. They kept the instructions of the Lord according to the commandment of the Lord by the authority of Moses. All right. So I'm just going to take a few notes here on the chapter. Numbers 9. Okay. What happens to someone who becomes ceremonially unclean right before Passover or is on a journey? Allowance is made. If someone is not unclean or on a journey and they don't take Passover, then they are to be cut off. The Israelites were guided by the Lord as they lived in the wilderness. When the cloud would pick up and go, the people would follow, and when the cloud would settle, the people would camp. However long the cloud was there is how long the people stayed there. All right, let's keep going with Numbers 10. All right. Also, if you're on this morning, hey, Dad, good morning. If you're on this morning and you want to say good morning, let me know. It helps me know who's on, and I can't quite tell who's on unless people leave a comment, unfortunately. But it's, it makes me feel like we're all in this together too. So, Numbers chapter 10, here we go. The blowing of trumpets. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Make 2 trumpets of silver. You are to make them from a single hammered piece. You will use them for assembling the community and for directing the travel of the camps. When they blow them out, all the community must come to you to the entrance of the tent of meeting. But if they blow with 1 trumpet, then the leaders, the heads of the thousands of Israel, must come to you. When you blow an alarm, then the camps that are located on the east side must begin to travel. And when you blow an alarm the second time, then the camps that are located on the south side must begin to travel. An alarm must be sounded for their journeys. But when you assemble the community, you must blow the trumpets, but you must not sound an alarm. The sons of Aaron, the priests, must blow the trumpets, and they will be to you for an eternal ordinance throughout your generations. If you go to war, if you land against an adversary who opposes you, if you go to war in your land against an adversary who opposes you, then you must sound an alarm with the trumpets, and you will be remembered before the Lord your God, and you will be saved from your enemies. Also, in the time when you rejoice, such as your appointed festivals or at the beginnings of your months, you must blow with your trumpets over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, so that they may become a memorial for you before your God. I am the Lord your God. On the 20th day of the 2nd month, in the 2nd year, the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle of the testimony. So the Israelites set out on their journeys from the desert of Sinai, and the cloud settled in the wilderness of Paran. This was the first time they set out on their journey according to the commandment of the Lord by the authority of Moses. The standard of the camp of the Judahites set out first according to their companies, and over his company was Nahshon, son of Amminadab. Over the company of the tribe of Issacharites was Nathanael, son of Zuar. And over the company of the tribe of the Zebulunites was Eliab, son of Helon. Then the tabernacle was dismantled, and the sons of Gershon and the sons of Merari set out carrying the tabernacle. The standard of the camp of Reuben set out according to their companies. Over his company was Eliezer, son of Shedur. Over the company of the tribe of the Simeonites was Shelumiel, son of Zurishaddai. And over the company of the tribe of the Gadites was Elisaph, son of Deuel. And the Kohathites set out, carrying the articles for the sanctuary. The tabernacle was to be set up before they arrived. And the standard of the camp of the Ephraimites set out according to their companies. Over his company was Elishama, son of Ammihud. Over the company of the tribe of the Manasseites was Gamaliel, son of Pedazur. And over the company of the tribe of the Benjaminites was Abidan, son of Gideoni. The standard of the camp of the Danites set out, which was the rear guard of all the camps. By their companies, over his company was Ahiezer, son of Ammishaddai. Over the company of the tribe of the Asherites was Pagiel, son of Okran. And over the company of the tribe of the Naphtalites was Ahira, son of Enan. These were the traveling arrangements of the Israelites according to their companies when they traveled. Moses said to Hobab, son of Ruel, the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, "We are journeying to the place about which the Lord said, 'I will give to you.' Come with us, and we will treat you well, for the Lord has promised good things for Israel." But Hobab said to him, "I will not go, but I will go instead to my own land and to my own kindred." Moses said, "Do not leave us, because you know places for us to camp in the wilderness, and you could be our guide. And if you come with us, it is certain that whatever good things the Lord will favor us with, we will share with you as well." So they traveled from the mountain of the Lord 3 days' journey, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord was traveling before them during the 3 days' journey to find a resting place for them. And the cloud of the Lord was over them by day when they traveled from camp. And when the ark traveled, Moses would say, "Rise up, O Lord, make your enemies be scattered, and may those who hate you flee from you before you." And when it came to rest, he would say, "Return, O Lord, to the many thousands of Israel." Okay, so just a few notes here from Numbers 10. So there's the instructions for silver trumpets to be made and blown on different occasions. The people take their first journey leaving from Sinai. Let's say 3-day journey. Okay. Oh, I did not mean for that to be capitalized. 3-day journey. Okay. All right. Numbers 11. Oh, the Israelites complain. Haven't seen that before. When the people complained, it displeased the Lord. When the Lord heard it, his anger burned. And so the fire of the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outer parts of the camp. When the people cried to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died out. So he called the name of that place Taberah, because there the fire of the Lord burned among them. Now the mixed multitude who were among them craved more desirable foods. And so the Israelites wept again and said, "If only we had meat to eat. Remember the fish we used to eat freely in Egypt, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now we are dried up, and there is nothing at all before us except this manna." Now the manna was like coriander seed, and its color like the color of bdellium. And the people went out about and gathered it, and ground it with mills, and poured it in mortars. They baked it in pans and made cakes of it. It tasted like fresh olive oil. And when the dew came down on the camp in the night, the manna fell with it. Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, everyone at the door of his tent. And when the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly, Moses was also displeased. And Moses said to the Lord, "Why have you afflicted your servant? Why have I not found favor in your sight so that you lay the burden of this entire people on me? Did I conceive this entire people? Did I give birth to them that you should say to me, 'Carry them in your arms,' and as a foster father bears a nursing child, to the land that you swore to their fathers? From where shall I get meat to give to this entire people? For they cry to me, 'Give us meat that we may eat.' I may not be able to bear this entire people alone, because it is too heavy for me. But if you are going to deal with me like this, then kill me immediately. If I have found favor in your sight, then do not let me see my trouble." The Lord said to Moses, "Gather to me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know are elders of the people and officials over them, and bring them to the tent of meeting. Let them take their position there with you. Then I will come down and speak with you there, and I will take part of the Spirit that is on you, and I will put it on them, and they will bear some of the burden of the people with you, so that you do not bear it all by yourself. And say to the people, 'Sanctify yourselves for tomorrow, and you will eat meat, for you have wept in the hearing of the Lord, saying, Who will give us meat to eat? For life was good for us in Egypt. Therefore the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat. You will eat not just 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, nor 10 days, nor 20 days, but a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and makes you sick, because you have despised the Lord who is among you, and have wept before him, saying, Why did we ever come out of Egypt? Moses said, The people around me are 600,000 on foot, but you say, I will give them meat that they may eat for a whole month. Would they have enough if the flocks and herds were slaughtered for them? If all the fish of the sea were caught for them, would they have enough? And the Lord said to Moses, Is the Lord's hand shortened? Now you will see whether my word to you will come true or not. So Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord. He then gathered 70 men of the elders of the people and had them stand around the tabernacle. And the Lord came down in the cloud and spoke to them. And he took some of the Spirit that was on Moses and put it on the 70 elders. When the Spirit rested on them, they prophesied, but did not do so again. But 2 men remained in the camp. One's name was Eldad, the other's name was Meldad, and the Spirit rested on them. Now they were among those in the registration, but had not gone to the tabernacle. So they prophesied in the camp, and a young man ran and told Moses, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of Moses, one of his choice young men, said, My lord Moses, stop them. Moses said to him, "Are you jealous for me? I wish that all the Lord's people were prophets, that the Lord would put his spirit on them." Then Moses returned to the camp along with the elders of Israel. Now a wind went out from the Lord and brought quail from the sea, and let them fall near the camp around a day's journey on this side, and about a day's journey on the other side, all around the camp, and about 3 feet high on the surface of the ground. 3 feet high? And the people stayed up all that day and all that night and all the next day and gathered the quail. The one who gathered the least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. But while the meat was still between their teeth, before they chewed it, the anger of the Lord burned against the people, and the Lord struck the people with a great plague. So the name of the place was called Kibroth Hattava, because they were buried there. They buried the people that craved different food. The people traveled from Kibroth Hattava to Hazeroth, and they stayed at Hazeroth. Okay. Numbers 11. The people start to complain, so a number of the people on the perimeter of the camp die. Moses is upset with the people and asks God to kill him. The people wish they had the food they had back in Egypt. God sends them so much quail that it will come out of their nostrils. Numbers 12. There you go. Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. They said, "Has the Lord spoken only through Moses? Has he not also spoken through us?" And the Lord heard it. Now the man was very humble, more than any man on the face of the earth. So the man Moses was very humble. Sorry, just one more thing. The Lord takes a portion of the Spirit on Moses and puts it on 70 people to share the load with Moses. All right, sorry. I just remembered that I wanted to add. Okay. The Lord spoke immediately to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. "The 3 of you come to the tent of meeting." So the 3 of them went, and the Lord came down in a pillar of cloud and stood at the entrance of the tent. He then called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forward. The Lord said, "Hear now my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known to him in a vision. I will speak with him in a dream. My servant Moses is not like this. He is faithful in all my house. With him I will speak face to face, openly and not in riddles, and he will see the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?" The anger of the Lord burned against them, and he departed. After the cloud had departed from above the tent, there was Miriam, leprous like snow. Then Aaron turned toward Miriam and realized that she was leprous. So Aaron said to Moses, "Oh, my Lord, please do not hold this sin against us, in which we have acted foolishly and have sinned. Do not let her be like a baby born dead, whose flesh is half consumed when it comes out of its mother's womb." Then Moses cried to the Lord, "Heal her now, O God." The Lord said to Moses, "If her father had only spit in her face, would she not have been disgraced for 7 days? Shut her out from the camp 7 days, and afterward she can be brought back in again." So Miriam was shut outside of the camp for 7 days, and the people did not journey on until Miriam was brought back in. After that, the people moved from Hazeroth and camped in the wilderness of Paran. Aaron and Miriam speak out against Moses and complain since he had married an Ethiopian woman. They ask, does the Lord only speak to Moses? The Lord speaks to them, and Miriam becomes leprous. Okay. Next one, Numbers 13. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Send out men to investigate the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. You are to send one man from each ancestral tribe, each one a leader among them." So Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran at the commandment of the Lord. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. Now these were their names. From the tribe of Reuben, Shammua, son of Zakur. From the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat, son of Hori. From the tribe of Judah, Caleb, son of Jephunneh. From the tribe of Issachar, Igal, son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, son of Nun. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel, son of Sodi. From the tribe of Joseph, namely the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi, son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Amiel, son of Gamali. From the tribe of Asher, Sethur, son of Michael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi, son of Vopshi. From the tribe of Gad, Guel, son of Maki. These are the names of the men whom Moses sent to investigate the land. And Moses gave Hoshea, son of Nun, the name Joshua. When Moses sent them to investigate the land of Canaan, he told them, "Go up through the Negev, then go up into the hill country and see what the land is like, and whether the people who live in it are strong or weak, few or many, and whether the land they live in is good or bad, and whether the cities they inhabit are like camps or fortified cities, and whether the land is rich or poor, and whether or not there are forests in it. And be brave, and bring back some of the fruit of the land." Now it was the time of the year for the first ripe grapes. So they went up and investigated the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehob at Lebo Hamath. When they went up through the Negev, they came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, descendants of Anak, were living. Now Hebron had been built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. When they came to the valley of Eshcol, they cut down from there a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they carried it on a staff between 2 men, as well as some of the pomegranates and the figs. That place was called the Eshcol Valley, because of the cluster of grapes that the Israelites cut from there. They returned from investigating the land after 40 days. They came back to Moses and Aaron and to the whole community of the Israelites in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. They reported to the whole community and showed the fruit of the land. They told Moses, "We went to the land where you sent us. It is indeed flowing with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. But the inhabitants are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large. Moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the land of the Negev. The Hittites, the Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country. And the Canaanites live by the sea and along the banks of the Jordan." Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses, saying, Let us go up and occupy it, for we are well able to conquer it." But the men who had gone up with him said, "We are not able to go up against these people, because they are stronger than we are." Then they presented the Israelites with a discouraging report of the land they had investigated, saying, "The land that we passed through to investigate is a land that devours its inhabitants. All the people we saw there are of great stature. We even saw the Nephilim there." The descendants of Anak came from the Nephilim. "And we seemed like grasshoppers, both to ourselves and to them." All right. Spies are sent into the land to investigate it. Into the land to investigate it. They bring back a cluster of grapes and some pomegranates. But most of the people who went to spy out the land come back too scared to venture into it. Caleb says they can take the land. All right. Numbers 14. I just want to take a quick look at the collaborative notes here. All right. Got nothing so far today. That's all right. So, again, if you have any notes, anything that stands out to you from the chapters, any observations you make during the chapters, there's the collaborative notes document, and I'd love to see what you're observing and noticing in these chapters. So now we're going to read chapter 14, which is titled "The Israelites Respond in Unbelief." Oh boy. Then all the community raised a loud cry, and the people wept that night. And all the Israelites murmured against Moses and Aaron, and the whole congregation said to them, "If only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if only we had perished in this wilderness. Why has the Lord brought us into this land only to be killed by the sword, that our wives and our children should become plunder? Wouldn't it be better for us to return to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let's appoint a leader and return to Egypt." So Moses and Aaron fell down with their faces to the ground before the whole assembled community of the Israelites. And Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh, two of those who had investigated the land, tore their garments. They said to the whole community of the Israelites, "The land we passed through to investigate is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land that is flowing with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their protection has turned aside from them, but the Lord is with us. Do not fear them." However, the whole community threatened to stone them, but the glory of the Lord appeared to all the Israelites at the tent of meeting. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will this people despise me? And how long will they not believe in me, in spite of the signs I have done among them? I will strike them with the pestilence, and I will disinherit them. I will make you into a nation that is greater and mightier than they." Moses said to the Lord, "When the Egyptians hear it, for you brought up this people by your power from among them, then they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land. They have heard that you, Lord, are among this people, that you, Lord, are seen face to face, that your cloud stands over them, and that you go before them by day in a pillar of cloud and in a pillar of fire by night. If you kill this entire people at once, then the nations that have heard of your fame will say, 'Because the Lord was not able to bring this people into the land that he swore to them, he killed them in the wilderness.' So now let the power of my Lord be great, just as you have said. The Lord is slow to anger and abounding in loyal love, forgiving iniquity and transgression, but by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children until the third and fourth generations. Please forgive the iniquity of this people according to your great loyal love, just as you have forgiven this people from Egypt even until now. Then the Lord said, I have forgiven them as you asked, but truly as I live, all the earth will be filled with the glory of the Lord. For all the people have seen my glory and my signs that I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and yet have tempted me now these 10 times and have not obeyed me. They will by no means see the land that I promised on oath to their fathers, nor will any of them who despised me see it. And yeah, okay. Only my servant Caleb, because he had a different spirit and has followed me fully, I will bring him into the land he had gone, where he had gone, and his descendants will possess it. Now the Amalekites and the Canaanites were living in the valleys. Tomorrow turn and journey into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, how long must I bear with this evil congregation that murmurs against me? I have heard the complaints of the Israelites, that they murmured against me. Say to them, as I live, says the Lord, I will surely do to you just what you have spoken in my hearing. Your dead bodies will fall in this wilderness, and all those of you who were numbered according to your full number, from 20 years old and upward, who have murmured against me, you will by no means enter into the land where I swore to settle you. The only exceptions are Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. But I will bring in your little ones, whom you said would become victims of war, and they will enjoy the land that you have despised. But as for you, your dead bodies will fall in this wilderness, and your children will wander in the wilderness 40 years and suffer for your unfaithfulness, until your dead bodies lie finished in the wilderness, according to the number of days you have investigated this land. 40 days, 1 day for a year. You will suffer for your iniquities. 40 years, you will know what it means to thwart me. I, the Lord, have said, I will surely do so to all this evil congregation that has gathered together against me. In this wilderness they will be finished, and there they will die. The men whom Moses sent to investigate the land, who returned and made the whole community murmur against him by producing an evil report about the land, those men who produced the evil report about the land died by the plague before the Lord. But Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh, who were among them who went to investigate the land, lived. When Moses told these things to all the Israelites, the people mourned greatly. And early in the morning they went up to the crest of the hill country, saying, Here we are, and we will go up to the place that the Lord commanded, for we have sinned. But Moses said, Why are you now transgressing the commandment of the Lord? It will not succeed. Do not go up, for the Lord is not among you, and you will be defeated before your enemies. For the Amalekites and the Canaanites are there before you, and you will fall by the sword, because you have turned away from the Lord. The Lord will not be with you. But they dared to go up to the crest of the hill, although neither the ark of the covenant of the Lord nor Moses departed from the camp. So the Amalekites and the Canaanites who lived in that hill country swooped down and attacked them as far as Hormah. Numbers 14. Few thoughts, few notes. Because the people were afraid to go into the land, they would wander in the wilderness another 40 years. The current generation would die out in the wilderness, and the children of that generation, whom were said would have been killed in war if they had gone into the land as they should have, those children will inherit the land. The people who went in to scope out the land die, except Joshua and Caleb. A bunch of people decide at this point to go into the land to try to take them, but God is not with them, and so they are pursued out. Numbers 15. Sacrificial rulings. Sorry, I'm just going to check here. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, whether you enter the land where you are to live, which I am giving you, and you make an offering by fire to the Lord from the herd or from the flock, whether a burnt offering or a sacrifice for discharging a vow, or as a freewill offering, or in your solemn feasts to create a pleasing aroma to the Lord, then the one who presents his offering to the Lord must bring a grain offering, 1/10 of an ephah, or finely ground flour, mixed with 1/4 of a hin of olive oil. You must also prepare 1/4 of a hin of wine for a drink offering, with the burnt offering or the sacrifice for each lamb. Or for a ram, you must prepare as a grain offering 2/10 of an ephah, or of finely ground flour, mixed with 1/3 of a hin of olive oil. And for a drink offering, you must offer 1/3 of a hin of wine as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. And when you prepare a young bull as a burnt offering, or a sacrifice for discharging a vow, or as a peace offering to the Lord, then a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of finely ground flour, mixed with half a hin of olive oil, must be presented with the young bull. And you must present as the drink offering half a hin of wine, with the fire offering as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. This is what is to be done for each ox, or each ram, or each of the male lambs, or the goats. You must do so for each one according to the number that you prepare. Every native-born person must do these things in this way to present an offering made by fire as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. If a resident foreigner is living with you, or whoever is among you in future generations, and prepares an offering made by fire as a pleasing aroma to the Lord, he must do it the same way you are to do it. One statute must apply to you who belong to the congregation and to the resident foreigner who is living among you, as a permanent statute for your future generations. You and the resident foreigner will be alike before the Lord. One law and one custom must apply to you and to the resident foreigner who lives alongside you. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when you enter the land to which I am bringing you, and you eat some of the food of the land, you must offer up a raised offering to the Lord. You must offer up a cake of the first of your finely ground flour as a raised offering. As you offer the raised offering of the threshing floor, so you must offer it up. You must give to the Lord some of the first of your finely ground flour as a raised offering in your future generations. If you sin unintentionally and do not observe all these commandments that the Lord has spoken to Moses, all that the Lord has commanded you by the authority of Moses from the day that the Lord commanded Moses and continuing through your future generations. Then, if anything is done unintentionally without the knowledge of the community or without the knowledge of the community, the whole community must prepare one young bull for a burnt offering, for a pleasing aroma to the Lord, along with its grain offering and its customary drink offering, and one male goat for a purification offering. And the priest is to make atonement for the whole community of the Israelites, and they will be forgiven because it was unintentional, and they have brought their offspring, an offspring made by fire, to the Lord, and their purification offering before the Lord for their unintentional offense. And the whole community of the Israelites and the resident foreigner who lives among them will be forgiven, since all the people were involved in the unintentional offense. If any person sins unintentionally, then he must bring a yearling female for a purification offering, and the priest must make atonement for the person who sins unintentionally. When he sins unintentionally before the Lord, to make atonement for him, and he will be forgiven. You must have one law for the person who sins unintentionally, both for the native born among the Israelites and for the resident foreigner who lives among them. But the person who acts defiantly, whether native born or a resident foreigner, insults the Lord. That person must be cut off from among his people, because he has despised the Lord's message and has broken his commandment. That person must be completely cut off. His iniquity will be on him. When the people were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering wood on the Sabbath day. Those who found him gathering wood brought him in to Moses and Aaron and to the whole community. They put him in custody because there was no clear instruction about what should be done to him. Then the Lord said to Moses, "The man must surely be put to death. The whole community must stone him with stones outside the camp." So the whole community took him outside the camp and stoned him to death, just as the Lord commanded Moses. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them to make tassels for themselves on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and put a blue thread on the tassel of the corners. You must have this tassel so that you may look at it and remember all the commandments of the Lord and obey them, so that you do not follow after your own heart and your own eyes that lead you to unfaithfulness. Thus you will remember and obey all my commandments and be holy to your God. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. To be your God, I am the Lord your God." Nice. All right. So Numbers 15, we saw sacrificial rulings and offerings coming into the land that is promised. Unintentional sins by the people, how they should be treated. Intentional sins by anyone in the people, whether native born or resident foreigner, must be punished. God gives instructions for tassels to be worn, to be reminded of the law. Right? The commandments and obey them. Nice. All right. Being a leader is a big responsibility. Yeah, that's very true. Check here. All right. Next chapter, Numbers 16. Ooh, the rebellion of Korah. All right. Here we go. Now Korah, son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, and Dathan, Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, son of Peleth, who were Reubenites, took men, and they rebelled against Moses, along with some of the Israelites, 250 leaders of the community, chosen from the assembly, famous men, and they assembled against Moses and Aaron, saying to them, "You take too much upon yourselves, seeing that the whole community is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the community of the Lord?" When Moses heard it, he fell down with his face to the ground. He said to Korah and to all his company, "In the morning the Lord will make known who are his and who is holy. He will cause that person to approach him. The person he has chosen, he will cause to approach him. Do this, Korah, you and all your company. Take censers and put fire in them, and set incense on them before the Lord tomorrow, and the man whom the Lord chooses will be holy. You take too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi." Moses said to Korah, "Listen now, you sons of Levi. Does it seem too small a thing to you that the God of Israel has separated you from the community of Israel to bring you near to himself, to perform the service of the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the community to minister to them? He has brought you near, and all your brothers, the sons of Levi, with you. Do you now seek the priesthood also? Therefore, you and all your company have assembled together against the Lord. And Aaron, what is he that you murmur against him?" Then Moses summoned Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab. But they said, "We will not come up. It is a small thing that you have brought us up out of the land that flows with milk and honey, to kill us in the... Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of the land that flows with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness? Now, do you want to make yourself a prince over us? Moreover, you have not brought us into a land that flows with milk and honey, nor given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Do you think you can blind these men? We will not come up." Moses was very angry, and he said to the Lord, "Have no respect for their offering. I have not taken so much as one donkey from them, nor have I harmed any of them." Then Moses said to Korah, "You and all your company present yourselves before the Lord, you and they, and Aaron tomorrow. And each of you take his censer, put incense in it, and then each of you present his censer before the Lord. 250 censers along with you, and Aaron, each of you, and with his censer." So everyone took his censer, put fire in it, and set incense on it, and stood at the entrance of the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. When Korah assembled the whole community against them at the entrance of the tent of meeting, then the glory of the Lord appeared to the whole community. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, "Separate yourselves from among this community, that I may consume them in an instant." Then they threw themselves down with their faces to the ground and said, "O God, the God of the spirits of all people, will you be angry with the whole community when only one man sins?" So the Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the community, get away from around the homes of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram." Then Moses got up and went to Dathan and Abiram and the elders of Israel after him. And he said to the community, "Move away from the tents of these wicked men, and do not touch anything they have, lest you be destroyed because of all their sins." So they got away from the homes of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram on every side. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stationed themselves in the entrances of their tents, with their wives, their children, and their toddlers. Then Moses said, "This is how you will know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. If these men die a natural death, or
if they share the fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord does something entirely new, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up along with all that they have, and they go down to the grave, then you will know that these men have despised the Lord. When he had finished speaking all these words, the ground that was under them split open, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them, along with their households and all Korah's men and all their goods. They and all they had went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed over them. So they perished from among the community. All the Israelites who were around them fled at their cry, for they said, "What if the earth swallows us too?" Then a fire went out from the Lord and devoured the 250 men who offered incense. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, to pick up the censers out of the flame, for they are holy, and then scatter the coals of fire at a distance. As for the censers of these men who sinned at the cost of their lives, they must be made into hammered sheets for covering the altar, because they presented them before the Lord and sanctified them. They will become a sign to the Israelites." So Eleazar the priest took the bronze censers presented by those who had been burned up, and they were hammered out as a covering for the altar. It was a memorial for the Israelites that no outsider who is not a descendant of Aaron should approach to burn incense before the Lord, that he might not become like Korah and his company, just as the Lord had spoken by the authority of Moses. But on the next day, the whole community of the Israelites murmured against Moses and Aaron, saying, "You have killed the Lord's people." When the community assembled against Moses and Aaron, they turned toward the tent of meeting, and the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. Then Moses and Aaron stood before the tent of meeting. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Get away from this community, so I can consume them in an instant." But they threw themselves down with their faces to the ground. Then Moses said to Aaron, "Take a censer, put burning coals from the altar in it, place incense on it, and go quickly into the assembly and make atonement for them, for wrath has gone out from the Lord. The plague has begun." So Aaron did as Moses' commandment did, and ran into the middle of the assembly, where the plague was just beginning among the people. So he placed incense on coals and made atonement for the people. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stopped. Now 14,700 people died in the plague, in addition to those who died in the event with Korah. Then Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and the plague was stopped. All right. So there's rebellion of Korah. The earth swallows Korah and a few other families, and fire comes from the tent and consumes a number of people associated with the rebellion. People still complain, and so a plague strikes a lot of them. 14,700. Korah. Right? Is Korah or with an H? With an H. Korah. Okay. Number 17. Let's quickly. All right. The budding of Aaron's staff. Ooh, this is cool. There's a lot of really interesting things that are happening in these chapters. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and receive from them a staff from each tribe, one from each tribal leader. 12 staffs. You must write each man's name on his staff. You must write Aaron's name on the staff of Levi, for one staff, is for the head of every tribe. You must place them in the tent of meeting before the ark of the covenant, where I meet with you. And the staff of the man whom I choose will blossom. So I will rid myself of the complaints of the Israelites, which they murmur against you. So Moses spoke to the Israelites, and each of their leaders gave him a staff, one for each leader, according to their tribes, 12 staffs. The staff of Aaron was among their staffs. Then Moses placed the staffs before the Lord in the tent of the testimony. On the next day, Moses went into the tent of the testimony, and the staff of Aaron for the house of Levi had sprouted and brought forth buds and produced blossoms with yielded almonds. So Moses brought out all the staffs from before the Lord to all the Israelites. They looked at them, and each man took his staff. The Lord said to Moses, "Bring Aaron's staff back before the testimony to be preserved for a sign to the rebels, so that you may bring their murmuring to an end before me, that they will not die." So Moses did as the Lord commanded him. This is what he did. The Israelites said to Moses, "We are bound to die. We perish. We all perish. Anyone who even comes close to the tabernacle of the Lord will die. Are we all to die?" Okay. God performs a miracle with staffs to get the people to stop complaining. A leader from each tribe is to bring forward a staff, including Aaron's staff. The next day, Aaron's staff is budding and even has almonds growing on it. All right. Oh, actually, one more thing. Oh, no. It's not working. All right, never mind then. If it's not working, it's not working. Numbers 18. Responsibilities of the priests. The Lord said to Aaron, "You and your sons and your tribe with you must bear the iniquity of the sanctuary, and you and your sons with you must bear the iniquity of your priesthood. Bring with you your brothers, the tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, so that they may join with you and minister to you, while you and your sons with you belong to the tent of the testimony. They must be responsible to care for you and to care for the entire tabernacle. However, they must not come near the furnishings of the sanctuary and the altar, or both they and you will die. They must join with you, and they will be responsible for the care of the tent of meeting, for all the service of the tent, but no unauthorized person may approach you. You will be responsible for the care of the sanctuary and the care of the altar, so that there will be no more wrath on the Israelites. I myself have chosen your brothers, the Levites, from among the Israelites. They are given to you as a gift from the Lord to perform the duties of the tent of meeting. But you and your sons with you are responsible for your priestly duties, for everything at the altar and within the curtains, and you must serve. I will give you the priesthood as a gift for service, but the unauthorized person who approaches must be put to death." The Lord spoke to Aaron, "See, I have given you the responsibility for my raised offerings. I have given all the holy things of the Israelites to you as your priestly portion, and to your sons as a perpetual ordinance. Of all the most holy offerings reserved from the fire, this will be yours, everyday offering of theirs, whether from the grain offering, or from every purification offering, or from every reparation offering, which they bring to me, will be most holy for you and for your sons. You are to eat it as a most holy offering. Every male may eat it. It will be holy to you. And this is yours, the raised offering of their gift, along with all the wave offerings of the Israelites. I have given them to you, and to your sons and daughters with you as a perpetual ordinance. Everyone who is ceremonially clean in your household may eat of it. All the best of the olive oil, and all the best of the wine, and of the wheat, the first fruits of these things that they give to the Lord, I have given to you. And whatever first ripe fruit in their land they bring to the Lord will be yours. Everyone who is ceremonially clean in your household may eat of it. Everything devoted in Israel will be yours. The firstborn of every womb which they present to the Lord, whether human or animal, will be yours. Nevertheless, the firstborn sons you must redeem, and the firstborn males of unclean animals you must redeem. And those that must be redeemed, you are to redeem when they are a month old, according to your estimation, for 5 shekels of silver, according to the sanctuary shekel, which is 20 gerahs. But you must not redeem the firstborn of a cow or a sheep or a goat. They are holy. You must splash their blood on the altar and burn their fat for an offering made by fire, for a pleasing aroma to the Lord. And their meat will be yours, just as the breast and the right hip of the raised offering is yours. All the raised offerings of the holy things that the Israelites offer to the Lord, I have given to you, and to your sons and daughters with you as a perpetual ordinance. It is a covenant of salt forever before the Lord, for you and for your descendants. The Lord spoke to Aaron, you will have no inheritance in their land, nor will ye have any portion of property among them. I am your portion and your inheritance among the Israelites. See, I have given the Levites all the tithes in Israel for an inheritance, for their service that they perform, the service of the tent of meeting. No longer may the Israelites approach the tent of meeting, or else they will bear their sin and die. But the Levites must perform the service of the tent of meeting, and they must bear their iniquity. It will be a perpetual ordinance throughout your generations, that among the Israelites the Levites have no inheritance. But I have given to the Levites for an inheritance the tithes of the Israelites that are offered to the Lord as a raised offering. That is why I said to them that among the Israelites they are to have no inheritance. The Lord spoke to Moses, you are to speak to the Levites, and you must tell them, when you receive from the Israelites the tithe that I have given you from them as your inheritance, then you are to offer up from it as a raised offering to the Lord 1/10 of the tithe. And you must raise offering, and your raised offering will be credited to you as though it were grain from the threshing floor, or as new wine from the winepress. Thus you are to offer up a raised offering to the Lord of all your tithes that you receive from the Israelites, and you must give the Lord's raised offering from it to Aaron the priest. From all your gifts you must offer up every raised offering due the Lord from all the best of it and the holiest part of it. Therefore you will say to them, when you offer up the best of it, then it will be credited to the Levites as the product of the threshing floor and as the product of the winepress, and you may eat it in any place, you and your household, because it is your wages for your service in the tent of meeting. And you will bear no sin concerning it when you offer up the best of it, and you must not profane the holy things of the Israelites, or else you will die. All right. This is... Oh, wait. Oh, this is odd. Okay. Around here somewhere. There you go. Numbers 18 is the portion of the Levites is to be the Lord. Provision for the Levites. All right. Numbers 19. All right. The red heifer ritual. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. This is the ordinance of the law that the Lord has commanded. Instruct the Israelites to bring you a red heifer without blemish, which has no defect and never carried a yoke, and has never carried a yoke. You must give it to Eleazar the priest so that he can take it outside the camp. It must be slaughtered before him. Eleazar the priest is to take some of its blood with his finger and sprinkle some of the blood 7 times in the direction of the front of the tent of meeting. Then the heifer must be burned in his sight, its skin, its flesh, its blood, and its offal is to be burned. And the priest must take cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet wool, and throw them into the midst of the fire where the heifer is burning. Then the priest must wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and afterward he may come into the camp. But the priest will be ceremonially unclean until evening. The one who burns it must wash his clothes in water and bathe himself in water. He will be ceremonially unclean until evening. Then a man who is ceremonially clean must gather up the ashes of the red heifer and put them in a ceremonially clean place outside the camp. They must be kept for the community of the Israelites for use in the water of purification. It is a purification for sin. The one who gathers the ashes of the heifer must wash his clothes and be ceremonially unclean until evening. This will be a permanent ordinance both for the Israelites and the resident foreigner who lives among them. Whoever touches the corpse of any person will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. He must purify himself with water on the 3rd day and on the 7th day, and so will be clean. But if he does not purify himself on the 3rd day and the 7th day, then he will not be clean. Anyone who touches the corpse of any dead person and does not purify himself defiles the tabernacle of the Lord, and that person must be cut off from Israel, because the water of purification was not sprinkled on him. He will be unclean. His uncleanness remains on him. This is the law. When a man dies in a tent, anyone who comes into the tent and all who are in the tent will be ceremonially unclean 7 days. And every open container that has no covering fastened on it is unclean. Whoever touches the body of someone killed with a sword in the open fields, or the body of someone who died of natural causes, or a human bone, or a grave, will be unclean 7 days. For a ceremonially unclean person, you must take some of the ashes of the heifer burnt for purification from sin and pour fresh running water over them in a vessel. Then a ceremonially clean person must take hyssop, dip it in the water, and sprinkle it on the tent, on all its furnishings, and on the people who are there, or on the one who touched a bone, or one who was killed, or one who died, or a grave. And the clean person must sprinkle the unclean on the 3rd day and on the 7th day, and on the 7th day he must purify him, and then he must wash his clothes and bathe in water, and he will be clean in the evening. But the man who is unclean and does not purify himself, that person must be cut off from among the community, because he has polluted the sanctuary of the Lord. The water of purification was not sprinkled on him, so he is unclean. This will be a perpetual ordinance for them. The one who sprinkles the water of purification must wash his clothes, and the one who touches the water of purification will be unclean until evening. And whoever the unclean person touches will be unclean, and the person who touches it will be unclean until evening. All right. The ordinance of the heifer. When someone touches a dead body, they are unclean for 7 days. They must be made clean by a few ways, including the ashes of the heifer and a hyssop branch. Okay, Numbers chapter 20. Before we do, I just want to check the collaborative notes. No, we're good. All right, Numbers chapter 20. Here we go. The Israelites complain again. Oh boy. Then the entire community of Israel entered the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed in Kadesh. Miriam died and was buried there. And there was no water for the community, so they gathered themselves together against Moses and Aaron. The people contended with Moses, saying, "If only we had died when our brothers died before the Lord. Why have you brought up the Lord's community into this wilderness, so that we and our cattle should die here? Why have you brought us up from Egypt, only to bring us to this dreadful place? It is no place for grain or figs or vines or pomegranates, nor is there any water to drink." So Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the entrance of the tent of meeting. They then threw themselves down with their faces to the ground, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Take the staff and assemble the community, you and Aaron, your brother, and then speak to the rock before their eyes. It will pour forth its water, and you will bring water out of the rock for them. And so you will give the community and their beasts water to drink." So Moses took the staff from before the Lord, just as he had commanded him. Then Moses and Aaron gathered the community together in front of the rock, and he said to them, "Listen, you rebels, must we bring water out of this rock for you?" Then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with his staff, and water came out abundantly. So the community drank, and their beasts drank too. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust me enough to show me as holy before the Israelites, therefore you will not bring this community into the land I have given them. These are the waters of Meribah, because the Israelites contended with the Lord. His holiness was maintained among them." Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom. "Thus says your brother Israel, you know all the hardships we have experienced, how our ancestors went down into Egypt, and we lived in Egypt a long time, and the Egyptians treated us and our ancestors badly. So when we cried to the Lord, he heard our voice, and he sent a messenger and has brought us up out of Egypt. Now we are in Kadesh, a town on the edge of your country. Please let us pass through your country. We will not pass through the fields or through the vineyards, nor will we drink water from any well. We will go by the king's highway. We will not turn to the right or to the left until we've passed through your region." But Edom said to him, "You will not pass through me, or I will come against you with the sword." Then the Israelites said to him, "We will go along the highway, and if we or our cattle drink any of your water, we will pay for it. We will only pass through on our feet, without doing anything else." But he said, "You may not pass through." Then Edom came out against them with a large and powerful force. So Edom refused to give Israel passage through his border. Therefore, Israel turned away from him. So the entire company of the Israelites traveled from Kadesh and came to Mount Hor. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron at Mount Hor by the border of the land of Edom. He said, Aaron will be gathered to his ancestors, for he will not enter into the land I have given to the Israelites, because both of you rebelled against my word at the waters of Meribah. Take Aaron and Eleazar. Come on. I'm trying to copy it for my notes anyways. Eleazar, his son, and bring them up on Mount Hor. Remove Aaron's priestly garments and put them on Eleazar, son of Aaron. Remove Aaron's priestly garments and put them on Eleazar, his son, and Aaron will be gathered to his ancestors and will die there. So Moses did as the Lord commanded, and they went up Mount Hor in the sight of the whole community. And Moses removed Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar. So Aaron died there on top of the mountain. And Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain. When all the community saw that Aaron was dead, the whole house of Israel mourned for Aaron 30 days. Okay. The people complain again, thinking they will die in the wilderness of thirst. Miriam dies. The Lord tells Moses to take his staff and touch the rock, and water will flow from it. Moses strikes it twice. Because Moses did not present the Lord as holy in his anger against the people, Moses and Aaron do not get to go into the promised land. Waters of and then Aaron dies. All right, Numbers chapter 21. This is our last chapter of the morning. It seems to end on a partly positive with victory, but then serpents. All right. When the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, heard that Israel was approaching along the road of Atharim, he fought against Israel and took some of them prisoner. So Israel made a vow to the Lord and said, "If you will indeed deliver this people into our hand, then we will utterly destroy their cities." The Lord listened to the voice of Israel and delivered up the Canaanites, and they utterly destroyed them and their cities. So the name of the place was called Hormah. Then they traveled from Mount Hor by the road to the Red Sea to go around the land of Edom. But the people became impatient along the way, and the people spoke against God and against Moses. "Why have you brought us up from Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread or water, and we detest this worthless food." So the Lord sent venomous snakes among the people, and they bit the people. Many people of Israel died. Then the people came to Moses and said, "We have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against you. Pray to the Lord that he would take away the snakes from us." So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses, "Make a poisonous snake and set it on a pole. Then when anyone who is bitten looks at it, he will live." So Moses made a bronze snake and put it on a pole, so that if a snake had bitten someone, when he looked at the bronze snake, he lived. The Israelites traveled on and camped at Oboth. Then they traveled from Oboth and camped at Abarim, in the wilderness that is before Moab on the eastern side. From there they moved on and camped in the valley of Zered. From there they moved on and camped on the other side of the Arnon, in the wilderness that extends from the regions of the Amorites. For Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. This is why it is said in the book of the wars of the Lord, "Wahab in Suphah and the Wadis, the Arnon and the slope of the valleys that extends to the dwelling of Ar and falls at the border of Moab. And from there they traveled to Beer. That is where the Lord spoke to Moses, gather the people and I will give them water. Then Israel sang this song, spring up, O well, sing to it, the well which the princes dug, which the leaders of the people opened with their scepters and their staffs. And from the wilderness they traveled to Matana, and from Matana to Nahaliel, and from Nahaliel to Bamoth, and from Bamoth to the valley that is in the country of Moab, near the top of Pisgah, which overlooks the wastelands. Victory over Sihon and Og. Then Israel sent messengers to the king of Sihon of the Amorites, saying, let us pass through your land. We will not turn aside into the fields or into the vineyards, nor will we drink water from any well, but we will go along the king's highway until we pass your borders. But Sihon did not permit Israel to pass through their borders. He gathered all his forces together and went out against Israel into the wilderness. When he came to Jahaz, he fought against Israel. But the Israelites defeated him in battle and took possession of his land from the Arnon to the Jabbok, as far as the Ammonites, for the border of the Ammonites was strongly defended. So Israel took all these cities, and Israel settled in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon, and in all its villages. For Heshbon was the city of King Sihon of the Amorites. Now he had fought against the former king of Moab, and had taken all his land from his control, as far as the Arnon. That is why those who speak in Proverbs say, come to Heshbon, let it be built. Let the city of Sihon be established, for fire went out from Heshbon, a flame from the city of Sihon. It has consumed Ar and Moab, and the lords of the high places of Arnon. Woe to you, Moab, you are ruined. O people of Chemosh, he has made his sons fugitives, and his daughters the prisoners of King Sihon of the Amorites. We have overpowered them. Heshbon has perished as far as Dibon. We have shattered them as far as Nophah, which reached Medeba. So the Israelites lived in the land of the Amorites. Moses sent spies to reconnoiter Jazer and captured its villages and dispossessed the Amorites who were there. Then they turned and went up by the road to Bashan, and King Og of Bashan and all his forces marched out against them to do battle at Edrei. And the Lord said to Moses, do not fear him, for I have delivered him and all his people and his land into your hand. You will do to him what you did to King Sihon of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon. So they defeated Og, his sons, and all his people until there were no survivors, and they possessed his land. All right, that is it for our morning reading. I hope you'll have a wonderful day today, going out and serving God, praising him, and glorifying him in all you do. I'll pray, and then we will be on with our day. Lord God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for this time that we've had to read your word, to recognize and see your faithfulness, your enduring love. Thank you, God. Thank you for your mercy to us, that even though we deserve to be destroyed, Lord, that you love us and you allow us to keep living and to know you and to live for you, God. I pray that you would keep our hearts from complaining against you, from rebelling against you in thought, in deed, in intention, in motive, and in heart. I pray, Lord, that we would honor you and glorify you with all that we are and all we do. I pray in your name, Jesus. Amen. Have a wonderful day abiding with God. See you tomorrow.